have a relatively short agenda today, so let's hear our weekly update. We get to hear the mayor again.
Good morning. Jim Clark, Director of Federal Relations in the Mayor's Office, and I'm joined by NMA Uton from the CAO's office. On Wednesday, the Department of Energy released the awards on the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Competitive Program. This is $452 million program called Retrofit Ramp Up, which was designed to do energy efficiency retrofitting in homes and businesses. There were 25 communities that were awarded funding. We had submitted an application through LADWP for $48 million. We did not receive, we were not awarded one of the awardees. Los Angeles County was the only awardee in the state of California, and they were in a coalition with Sacramento and the Association of Bay Area Governments and received a $30 million award. We'll be getting together with the department and with DOE to figure out what it was that was lacking in our application or why. This is sort of consistent. As you know, we've gone up and down and up and down. We get the highest award of anybody in the nation on one program, and then we get nothing on another program. And so it's either feast or famine, it seems like, with a lot of these programs. Also, last week we received a letter from the Department of Energy. There's been some concern by DOE in general about how quickly money is being spent in three program areas: the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program, the Weatherization Program, and the State Energy Programs. Those last two are grant programs in which the money actually goes through the state and it's then passed through to local governments. The energy efficiency, we got directly for it. And California has been woefully behind on weatherization, and it's been a particular problem. As a result of that, they've started to institute monthly reporting on those three programs because they're concerned about how to track it rather than wait on a quarterly basis. Now they've issued a letter regarding energy efficiency, conservation and block grant program that by June 25th of this year, they want the grantees to have under award and obligated, they want 90% of all the funding that we're going to get under this program, which is about a little under it's $36.2 million. They want that under contract and obligated, and then they've set out guidelines also that they want to be able to have us draw down the funds. 20% of the funding should be drawn down from the Treasury by September 30th, 50% by June of 2011, and 90% by June of 2012. So I'll be getting together with the department there to make sure that, and you're going to be considering the weatherization program, or I'll be getting together with the department on EECBG to make sure that we can meet these guidelines. But I assume, too, that there will be similar guidelines that are being issued on the weatherization program, so I can expect that the state's going to start pressuring us as soon as they give us the grant award here at the end of the month to start, getting some contracts in place and start spending some money. The last item was, yesterday I was in Washington, D.C., and had the opportunity to meet with the Special Assistant to the President for the Recovery Act and the Special Assistant to the Vice President for the Recovery Act, as well as the head of what's called the RAT Board, the Recovery Assistance and Transparency Board, and also the senior members in OMB that are dealing with recovery. This was part of...
That's their acronym, the RAT Board?
The RAT Board, yeah. This is part of something called the Big Cities Network, and it's made up of the 20 largest cities, and what we get together is started by New York City, but basically to share concerns that we all were experiencing throughout this process. So we had an opportunity to talk to them about issues that we were facing, about acquiring the funds, about the accounting and reporting of funds, and about the auditing of funds. And just as auditing, just to give you an example, there are 32 separate federal agencies, all of which have inspector generals. And so one of the requests we made of them is, can you try to standardize the auditing procedures so that we don't have 32 separate audit programs in place that will drive us all crazy when they start coming out and doing that. They also informed us that there is less than $2 billion left that has not been obligated. So the program, as far as getting the money obligated from the federal government, is pretty much winding down. And so we're not going to see a lot more of grant opportunities coming forward. There's a few of them that will be, but not very many. Most of the emphasis now will be on the whole monitoring of how we're spending the funds, the accounting of those, and the audit activities associated with it. So my recommendation to you actually is that we might consider going from a weekly ARA meeting to basically on an as-needed basis if there are any additional grant applications, if we're processing the awards through you, or probably after each quarterly reporting period to report back how we've been doing with that. We can continue to send you the regular reports if you'd like, but I think the scheduling of meetings could probably be reduced. Okay. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. CEO?
Anna Mahitan from the CAO. As you already know, we do project health reports every month. So for the month of February, we have a total of 87 projects that reported to us. Of that 87 projects, 39 or 44% have not started. Also, in terms of job creation for the month of February, the city have created or retained about 558 positions or FTEs, which is an increase of about 249 positions from the month of January. You will find that in the total expenditures through February, it decreased by about 18 million. We reported 56 million of expenditure back in January, and we're only reporting 37 million for February. And part of that is because of, I guess, for 3 projects, which is Water and Power, which is the safe drinking water, they pretty much overestimated their expenditure by about 25 million. And the reason for that is because of the they were counting all of the other funding sources rather than just the ARA source in terms of their expenditures.
Yeah.
Okay. As Jim already stated, Water and Power was denied the 48 million in energy efficiency and conservation block grant, so that decreased our pending opportunities down to like $60 million. There was a report back that was requested at the last meeting by Councilman Garcetti for clarification as to the estimated number of jobs to be created and retained by sector for the Smart Grid project. DWP will provide a written response directly to the ad hoc committee. And right now, maybe it will be about in 2 weeks.
2 weeks? Okay.
Okay. I think that would be it for now.
Okay. Any general questions, folks, before we head to number 2? Yeah, Ms. Perry?
Have you made a decision on future scheduling?
No, not yet.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Okay. If not, let's thank you. Let's go to number 2. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And now. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you? Please, go ahead.
Good morning. I'm Lucia Alvalade, and I'm in the Residential Energy Efficiency Office at the Department of Water and Power.
Yep.
And this is Nelson Liu from our power system.
Great.
And we have come to talk to you about the city's opportunity to receive $9.2 million in weatherization grant funding. I think you may have seen our report at the last ad hoc committee meeting in February, and we anticipate that this would create 77 positions in the city. The way it would work, there would be workers who would provide installation measures for weatherization. The goal of this grant funding, which ends March of 2012, would be to weatherize approximately 3,000 residences for low-income customers in zip codes designated by the state. And this would result in energy efficiency and habitability improvements for these customers.
And the original grant application, on the original grant application, the deadline for spending out was September 30th, 2011, but they've amended that to 2012?
Yes, they have.
Okay. And was that just because people were already having trouble spending out some of the money?
We met with representatives from the state and DOE a few weeks ago, and California has been a bit behind in being able to implement this program.
Yeah, we when we were doing Access DC, we met with some of the DOE reps, and they, as the mayor's office expressed as well, expressed extreme disappointment in California's pace. So whatever we can do to accelerate that, I think we have a pretty good infrastructure through the department. And these jobs they're not super temporary, but they're just for these 2 years, the jobs that are created, essentially?
That is correct. And it's anticipated that this will provide training for so-called green jobs and provide this group of people with a skill set that they can take to either test for city exams for future positions with the city or in the industry of weatherization.
So is the department looking at hiring new folks or retraining existing people in the department for these 77 positions?
It's pretty open at this point. I mean, the way it would work is at a local 18 Union Hall, they have several books. I think there are 4, and maybe Nelson could talk a little bit more to this. But depending on the skill set of the individual, they could sign the book and then receive training and be fed into this program.
They have basically 4 books depending on the level of experience, and book 1 being the highest level priority, and book 4 being people with very little experience, basically coming off the street. So this program will employ a good portion of that will be in the book 4 that we want to train people and give them those skill sets as a result of this program.
And how will this fit into the overall Green Corps, Green Doctor, and DSM program that the department is developing with the council, and tie in the energy efficiency and the conservation block grant dollars that DWP was awarded?
It's anticipated that this work is kind of a pilot, so to speak, for the Green Doctors program, and that many of these workers could be somehow fed into the program at some point. What we would be doing through this program is actually entering homes and performing weatherization measures, something that we presently don't do. So this is new to us, and we'll be testing this concept.
So it would provide the template for the Green Doctor program, or?
To a certain extent. I mean, we're under the Green Doctors umbrella. We're working with other entities such as the LA Housing Department to see how we can leverage our resources because they're already in homes. So it's one piece of the Green Doctor puzzle. I guess is how you can state it.
And how will it integrate with the business weatherization stuff that we're doing, or the business energy efficiency, where we're able to have commercial businesses do that? Will these be similar personnel? Are these going to be in completely different programs?
This is a different program because we are this work is specific to residences, does not touch business at all, and that's per the grant. The grant is very specific as to what kind of work can be done.
And I appreciate that. Maybe one of the things you can look at, though, is certainly when you're looking at small businesses, not skyscrapers and things like that, the actual work is very similar to home work. Buildings are one-story buildings. They're masonry or reinforced wood. You I think will have a lot of, and certainly as we've envisioned this Green Corps, Green Doctors program, we've looked at being able to go to a community, say in Silver Lake. You walk, the businesses on Sunset Boulevard, and then you can also be going up the streets and talking to apartment owners and to homeowners. So some of those, not commingling the funds, but commingling the skills. Yes. And as one ramps up and other ones ramp down, those folks being able to stay on, I think would provide more continuity to their jobs. So love to hear how that may be done and see if that could be accomplished as well.
Understood.
Yeah, I'd like to know if we can amend this to bring this into energy and environment without slowing it down.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine.
Okay,
it's
great.
I think is it just the report right now?
Yeah, just the report. I just want to get into some greater detail about the department's implementation strategy and deciding or making a determination of which homes to weatherize, and talk a little bit about that in greater depth.
Sure, absolutely. We'll cover for it.
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Alico?
Yeah, I've had some conversations with DWP, but I want to focus on the 16 project assistance positions. As I understand it, these are civil service classifications, and I wanted to understand whether or not these positions will be dedicated for the possibility of transferring city employees who are faced with layoffs.
Yes, that is definitely a possibility. At present, those positions, we have 16 positions for the pre- and post-inspection work for this grant, as well as for the record keeping. So we most definitely feel that there's an opportunity here for those 16 positions. Traditionally, these positions would be filled by utility services specialists. There were 12 assigned for the purpose of pre- and post-inspections, a management analyst, as well as 3 clerk typist positions for outreach and scheduling of appointments and so forth. We are unable to have those from our office at this point. We don't have that staffing, but we don't see why, since these are civil service classifications for the city, that there wouldn't be an opportunity to perhaps take some personnel from other departments whose jobs may be at risk and integrate them into this program for that purpose.
So you said it's a possibility. What process would be put in place to guarantee that any city employee that meets the qualifications has a chance to get these jobs as opposed to being laid off?
Well, I'm not really familiar myself with how it works through personnel, but I know that there have been some city employees who have come over to the Department of Water and Power recently, and I would imagine that we could utilize the same process. We could earmark those 16 positions and commit that those would be filled by other city employees.
I understand that the way that they're described in the application, they are retained employees. So where are they being retained from, if not from the city workforce? As far as I know, DWP isn't facing any layoffs.
That's correct.
So if they're truly going to be retained employees, they have to come from the city workforce.
Well, the utility services classification...
No, I'm not talking about the classification. I'm talking about the definition of retained employee relative to the grant application.
We do have 77 retained, yeah.
Maybe Jim Clark could help us clarify that. A retained employee is one who is faced with layoff. Is that not correct? So unless it were an employee that's faced with a layoff, it's not a retained employee. So I need to get clarity. Either your application has to state them as current employees being supplemented, or, which I believe is not consistent with the grant application for ARA, or you have to specify that the retained employees are coming from the city of Los Angeles.
If I may, Councilman Member, in terms of retained employees, OMB had changed that definition. So retained employees can be any employees that used to be funded with the general fund or other city funding sources that is now funded with ARA. So you don't have to show that that employee will be laid off. So that's what they have changed that definition.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I think it would be egregious if we moved existing DWP employees who are not in jeopardy of losing their jobs when we have 855, 105 who have already been laid off, and 750 that are being proposed for layoff. And it seems to me that DWP can just make a firm commitment that they will be given first shot.
New hires would be given first shot? Is that what you're saying? Sorry, just to clarify. They, you mean new hires?
That the 16 project assistant positions will first go to city employees who meet the qualifications,
Non-DWP city employees.
who are in jeopardy of losing their jobs.
Right.
We're talking about clerk typists. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
We can lower the number from 750 to 734 just by you guys saying yes.
Wendy Yancey, Water and Power. Is it possible in that there's a process that this has to go through as far as reporting back, public comments, et cetera? Can we report back to you before as we go forward implementing the plan, can we report that back to you, whether that is those are permanent positions and specifically designated as you wish? I think we can do that within the next week or so, though.
Yeah, you want to hold that and have that reported back next week?
Yeah, why don't we just hold this item?
Okay.
Okay. And
If
you
we
can
have
look at-
time, right, Jim?
We can look at that issue in committee as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Very good. We have a placeholder in council Tuesday. If you can, sorry? Well, I can also waive it out, so I could waive it out of committee. Why don't you try to get the answer before Tuesday to Mr. Alarcon?
Yes.
We'll continue it now, and if need be, I'll waive that out so we can have it on Tuesday as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr.
Let me just ask one question. We received this document back in February, and it appeared as though throughout that document it talked about weatherization specifically, and it, in fact, gave council district specific as relates to the San Fernando Valley. This document doesn't mention the valley at all. Is there an assumption that this now is expanded throughout the city, or are we still dealing with the February 19th report?
There was an updated version of the application, Councilman, and I believe it was sent. But actually, per the auspices of the grant, it appears that there are portions of every council district that we would weatherize, with the exception of council districts 9 and 15. And we did submit a listing of all of the zip codes for every council district and the entities that would be responsible for weatherizing under this grant, those specific areas.
Could we get a copy of that? I think we missed that because
Absolutely.
the questions that were asked back on February was why was it limited to San Fernando Valley? Because you gave us council districts 2, 3, 4, 5, and 11. But this report is identical in the dollar value and the number of employees. But I don't know if we've received information that is now expanded.
Okay. We will make sure that you get that. I apologize.
But the same process that the state is designating by zip code, is that still
Yes, that's correct. It's by zip code. And Los Angeles is actually being serviced via this grant by 2 other entities, Pace and Maravilla.
Okay, but the state is making that designation by zip code, not the city.
That is correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. All righty. Why don't we do this, actually, Mr. Alarcon, if it's okay, and we can hold it in council. I think because there's a deadline of the 28th for it, let's have them report to you in the meantime, and by coming to council. If they haven't reported by council, we can just hold it up or whatever. Okay?
Thank you.
So-
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
For the record, I just need to clarify. So what you're doing is you're not taking an action right now?
No,
You're
I'm
just gonna
changing
send
my
it
mind.
forward to
I will
council?
move the resolution. I'll co-refer it to Ms. Perry's committee that on Tuesday morning is going to meet, so we can still have the option of meeting the Tuesday deadline, but we'll see if we can get a more detailed report back on what Mr. Parks asked, and Ms. Perry, I think, is going to do that in committee, and then whether we can get a resolution we'd like to report in council to Mr. Alarcon's question and a commitment, hopefully, if that can be done. Okay.
So basically what you're going to have in council will be the report from this committee
Yeah.
adopting the resolution with the additional questions
Yeah.
that we'll be considering on the council floor.
Well,
Thank you.
can we insert language at this point that the council desires that DWP
Yeah.
provide those 16 positions to city, potential laid-off city employees
Yeah.
first?
I'd be
Gives
okay
them
with that,
first
sure.
opportunity.
If you want to move that, I'll second that. Sure.
Yeah, I'll make that a motion.
Okay.
Let me ask one other question. In your presentation, you said the change to citywide excluded 9 and 15, but on your chart, they show both of the districts getting service. Is the chart more accurate or your comments more accurate?
The Department of Water and Power, under the auspices of this grant, would not be servicing council districts 9 and 15 because that's not in the area for which this grant covers. However, that does not mean that 9 and 15 would not be
So you're
served.
saying DWP, it's not that they're not going to get service, but DWP will not provide the service?
Exactly.
Okay, all right.
Pace and Maravilla. I remember this from before. There are some districts in which we already had capacity with existing contractors. Where we didn't, I think DWP is stepping in to create this program. So. And let's also just add one other thing as an instruction, if we can have a report back each 30 days initially on the status of the program and grant money expenditures to keep on top of spending this out. Okay. All right. if there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and move approval. And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your work.
Sir, if you get